So Space Marine Codex 2.0, new releases for the Imperial Guard, and rumours of squats and world eaters in the future. Let's put the leaks, teasers and rumours together and talk about what's coming next for 40k this year. Hello and welcome back to Warspets Tactics, where today I thought it might be useful to put together all the leaks, rumours, educated guesses and teasers that we have, and form a rough roadmap for the 40k releases coming out next, all the things that Games Workshop has told us, and all the things that they haven't told us but we can be pretty sure are coming anyway. Games Workshop certainly had a whole ton of 40k releases out in January, catching up with a bit of a backlog for all the delays that happened in 2021. It looks like an awful lot more is on the way though, including some really exciting stuff. Here's a bit of an overview of my best guess at how 40k releases are going to pan out over 2022 and maybe slightly into 2023 as well. I'll talk through them in brief here, then we'll go through each and every one of these and talk about what details or rumours we have for what are going to be coming for all of these releases. First up, in the near term, the things that have actually been announced by Games Workshop are Codex Aeldari and all their new models coming soon, then Codex Tyranids, at least one new model, maybe more, and a new Kill Team box, which we know is going to be Corsairs against Chaos of some sort. I suspect all of that to drop within the next 6 weeks. Then after that, they really don't have all that many 40k codexes to release. We know that Chaos Space Marines are due quite a big update in terms of both rules and models, and it sounds like they're going to have a generous amount of models given. And otherwise that only leaves us with Imperial and Chaos Knights, Daemons, and the Astra Militarum. In terms of miniatures for those, Games Workshop do seem to have been trying to release at least one miniature for each faction. We know that Chaos Knights are getting some. It's heavily rumoured that Imperial Guard are getting at least a sizable release. A bit less info on the Daemons right now. Then in the longer term, probably after these ones, Codex Space Marines is apparently going to be getting an update to a 2.0 version. The supplements that don't have a 9th edition rulebook are being redone, including Ultramarines and White Scars and things, and at least a few new Space Marine models are coming out, because after all Games Workshop does like to release new Marine kits. There's then a couple of more out there new Codex rumours, World Eaters and Squats, both of which I think are genuinely quite likely to release at least within the next 2 years. That leaked Horus Heresy range refresh with a whole bunch of plastic kits that might spill into 40k, likely a new campaign system the likes of Psychic Awakening, and further releases that Games Workshop have basically promised on a regular basis, new Kill Team box sets with flexible kits, and new Warzone releases, part of Games Workshop's 40k Seasons idea. Loads of interesting stuff, so let's talk about what we know about each one of these, and their likely timescales and how likely they are to materialise. First up, the release that we know the most about is Codex Aeldari. It's getting to the point where the majority of new rules have been revealed, we're perhaps now more in a position of filling in the gaps. It was a very leaky codex, with a whole bunch of playtester datasheets getting out and about, and then Games Workshop showing off the majority of their special rules in previews. I've already reviewed a bunch of the new units on the channel. I'll hopefully be doing a second pass and a whole bunch more Aeldari rumours and leaks over the next day or two. In any case, we know it's a mammoth book with almost 200 pages. They've got a fun miracle dice-like Strands of Fate mechanic to sub certain rolls in for 6s. Battle Focus allows a lot of the Aeldari battle line to move, shoot, move, so they could be very tricksy hiding behind terrain. The book has absorbed the Inari Harlequins and Corsairs rules. All 3 of these are going to be included in the book. Wraith units are getting -1 damage, and of course all the rest of the units and options are getting reimagined stat lines and datasheets. It looks like compared with a bunch of the other codexes, a lot of effort has been put into this. Pretty good news if you're a 40k Space Elf. Games Workshop have already revealed an absolute ton of models for these. A new Avatar of Cain, new Guardians and Storm Guardians, a flexible Alt-Art kit, Warlocks in a box of 2, 3 new Shining Spears, Rangers and some new Shroud Runner Jetbike Rangers, reimagined Dark Reapers with their weird faces and Morgan Ra, and still to have the majority of their kit revealed are the Corsairs, a multi-part flexible kit that are coming in a new Kill Team box that we'll get onto in a second. Other than these, from what rumours I've heard, it sounds like we might not be getting any other aspect kits. I was wondering whether Swooping Hawks or Warp Spiders might be getting Games Workshop's attention, but from the rumours that I've heard and the datasheets that I've seen, it appears that these aren't getting updated yet. I will of course gladly eat my words if they do come out with something. Either way though, I think they've done quite well with this release. It's a really sizable range refresh. Definitely goes a long way to modernising the Eldar army. I'm going to guess that this will be dropping in the next 2 or 3 weeks. Next up, revealed without too much fanfare at the bottom of a Warhammer community article, apparently Codex Tyranids are going to be coming next. I'm going to guess that the time frame on the bugs will be somewhere between the next 4 and 8 weeks. We know there's at least one new model coming with the codex. They previewed that in that January teaser, something with wings and tentacles. I've seen people pointing out similarities to the Parasite of Mortrex, an old special character kit that they had. It could be fun to see that one return, though I guess it's not impossible. It could be something like Tyranid Shrags, or a bigger winged beastie of some sort. A new codex does also likely mean a new combat patrol box as well. I think that will be a welcome thing for the Tyranids. Currently they've got that slightly odd combination of one massive Trigon alongside some Gene Stealers and a Broodlord. Not terrible in terms of discount, but kind of useless if you don't want more Trigons or Morlocks. We are starting to see a few more leaked datasheets for the Tyranids coming out. I will hopefully be making another video or two on the Tyranids in the next day or two. Feel free to subscribe if you'd like to see that. But it appears that multiple monsters are going to be getting a meaty 2+ saving throw. It seems likely that a bunch of their special rules that they have through different supplements are going to be rolled into the codex, things like synaptic links and adaptive physiology. Gene Stealers look like they're in line for a massive buff, getting AP-3 on their talons similar to the Gene Stealer Cult Codex, and a 4+ invul save if they're the same as the pure strains. I must admit, if they do points cost the monsters kind of appropriately, then I struggle to see how they're not going to be a really powerful army in 9th. If the monsters get an appropriate points cost, then you can layer on the massive buffs of Crusher Stampede or Hive Fleet Leviathan for free. Then I think there's definitely potential for Codex Tyranids to be ridiculously threatening. Guess we'll have to wait and see though. I'll most certainly review the book on the channel when it comes out. Finally, in the short term for Games Workshop announcements, we know that a new Kill Team box is coming out in the near future. Games Workshop told us that one side will be Aeldari Corsairs, like the one that you can see here unveiled at the Las Vegas Open preview, and it seems that they've accidentally unveiled that the enemies will be Chaos by a URL that appeared on their website briefly. For the Corsairs, we've already had partial leaks of their datasheet online, plus a whole load of random facts and details that came out on that Aeldari Advent preview that so far seems to be accurate. Apparently they're going to be a troop's choice in Codex Aeldari, and they've got some options for some really interesting war gear, apparently being able to take a Wraith Cannon in some form, so it looks like some troopers going to have a really heavy weapon setup, a few Drukhari options like blasters and shredders, Corsair power swords, and something that calls itself a shuriken rifle. I'm sure the kit will be super flexible and really nicely customizable like most of the other Kill Team ones. I do quite like these Kill Team releases. They really let Games Workshop shine a lot of light on certain aspects of 40k lore, all in one well thought out plastic kit. For the Chaos one, all we know at the moment is that it's from the Chaos Space Marine faction. At the moment, really not a lot of details. It could simply be something like the Tau Pathfinder upgrade thing, where they gave an upgrade sprue alongside the existing kit. I guess in theory it could be something as simple as a standard box of Chaos Space Marines with some extras thrown in, but my guess is that this is going to be some part of the rumoured Chaos update. Mortal followers of some sort, whether it happens to be possessed humans, renegade guard, or Chaos cultists. I think that one of those will make a lot of sense for this Warzone Nachman's kill team. So far, the two other kill team boxes have really focused on units that don't tend to be standard battle line infantry quite so much. So far we've not seen anything quite as mighty as a Space Marine, so I think some cultists, renegades or possessed humans would really work quite well with that. Talking of which, not officially announced by Games Workshop at the moment, but really must not be too far off, is the Chaos Space Marine Codex. This has been very long awaited by Chaos Space Marine players. Super frustrating that some known very basic upgrades such as that +1 wound are going to be included in it, but it hasn't been available so far for all of 9th edition. With that Eldritch Omens box set releasing, I really don't think that it's likely that the Chaos Space Marine Codex is going to be too far delayed after this. My guess will be somewhere within the next 6 to 12 weeks, but it's kind of difficult to say without any Games Workshop confirmations. We do seem to be getting some fairly extensive rules rumours from the Chaos decks now, again ones which I'm going to have to cover in another video. I need to get another Chaos Rumours compilation done in the next day or two, but it seems that in addition to the standard revamped datasheets and things, that the Chaos Space Marines will be getting doctrines of some sort, getting exploding sixes to hit with similar weapons to the Space Marine ones. I quite like that change, to be honest. It kind of creates a bit of parity, and it always seemed likely that Chaos Space Marines will be getting some bonus for not allying anything, just the same as the Loyalists and the other armies in 9th. It seems that their Legion traits have been thoroughly revamped. Word Bearers are looking a lot more brutal in combat now, Black Legion get big damage buffs against units that are close by, and Night Lords getting extra boosts to advance and charge. All of those are rumours at this point, but they do seem pretty plausible just based on how Games Workshop has updated other books. I think one of the most telling things about the Chaos Space Marine Codex though is whether or not World Eaters are featured in it. The same people who have been coming out with leaked doctrines and Legion traits seem to be saying that World Eaters are not going to be featured in the Codex, which would just be really telling to suggest that they're coming as their own standalone force. Model-wise though, it looks like it could be very good times for the Chaos Space Marines. It sort of feels like it's a second wave to the previous wave that they had when they revamped the standard Chaos Marines, Terminators and Havocs and things alongside the Shadow Spear box. That big rumour that I talked about on the channel a while back that so far seems to have been right about just about everything suggested these models are coming. A new Warpsmith and Chosen that have since been confirmed by the Eldritch Omens box, and the other ones were Bikes and Possessed both being revamped. I can certainly see Bikes being redone. They're one of the older models that look a bit shoddy in comparison to the new ones. Cultist and Renegade Guard, both human mutants and larger possessed humans, and then a Cultist Standard Bearer, HQ and Bodyguard unit. All of those seem plausible enough. A lot of them kind of used to be a thing alongside either Renegades and Heretics from Forge World or the Lost and the Damned previous army list in Games Workshop's past, and a bigger expansion of all the mortal followers of Chaos does seem quite fun. In any case, it does look like the patience of Chaos Space Marine players will be rewarded, but it really does seem like quite a major faction to leave quite so late in the day, particularly when the Loyalists got theirs right at the start of the edition. Next up, for the Knights and Demons, we certainly know that a new Chaos Knight is in the works. This one appears to be a new variant of the Questor pattern Chaos Knight, armed with a big Volkite weapon of some sort. I kind of wonder if it might be an extra frame added into the already existing kit of the Despoiler. That will be quite similar to what the Loyalists got with their Preceptor and Canis Rex. I guess we'll have to wait and see. For the Imperial Knights, in general most armies that have had a 9th edition release have had a new model, though I'm a bit unsure whether Imperial Knights would get one or not. With Knights they don't really have the option of just giving you a throwaway character release. It's either quite a big kit or nothing at all. It'll be interesting to see whether they choose to expand the range any further at this point. I have a feeling that both the Chaos Knight and Imperial Knight codexes will probably drop together. It would seem a little bit strange to update the one and not the other, as a lot of the rules are likely to be shared. For the Demons, we really don't have much detail about them whatsoever. If I'd had to guess, I would have guessed that both Knights and Chaos Marines are probably more likely than them first, though honestly they could drop at any time. We did just have the slightly surprise release of Tyranids, even though they've had some fairly decent supplement content coming out already, and I thought that was a sign that they wouldn't get theirs till later. In any case, along with the Knights, Chaos Marines and Guard, they are one of the last 8th edition codexes standing, so they're pretty much guaranteed to be in the near term. Games Workshop have actually released a few demon kits in the interim. They released those twin Greater Demons of Slaanesh recently for Age of Sigmar, and I kind of wonder if they might be rolled into the codex alongside the rest. Certainly the Demon Codex could do with a bit of consolidation. There's really quite a lot of datasheets and new units that appear in other supplements rather than the main book. Finally, for the 8th edition codexes to be redone is the Astra Militarum, again like Chaos Space Marines, sorely in need of an update and really struggling to compete with the other 9th edition books. Again, that big rumour leak that's been fairly reliable had them marked for a fairly decent model release. There do seem to be quite a lot of rumours floating around for the Guard, a new Primaris Psyker, which looks like it might be what we can see here from that teaser that they did in January. It's also believed that Kazakin are coming, the Cadian version of Stormtroopers, potentially as a kill team release, a new Sentinel, a new heavy tank of some sort, and possibly a new reimagining of Creed and heavy weapon teams. It looks like it's going to be good times for the Guard when their codex does drop. I'd hope that they might be looking to wrap up the 9th edition codexes sometime within the next 6 months. I can't imagine that the new Guard Dex is going to be all that far away. Moving on, and something that I've not mentioned on the channel before yet, but I've heard rumours from several sources, including some very generous people who have contact with playtesters messaging me directly, but apparently a new Codex Space Marines 2.0 is also hot on the horizon, though I'm very strongly suspecting that this won't drop until all the 8th edition codexes have been replaced by 9th edition ones. If you think back to 8th edition, basically this would fit in a very similar pattern to how Games Workshop rolled out that. Release all the codexes, and then at the end of the cycle, the new Codex Space Marine dropped alongside supplement books. It looks like this year could really mimic that year, with a decent Chaos Space Marine released, followed fairly closely by a new Space Marine Codex 2.0 to make the Heretics look bad. In any case, that would be really quite major news for the Space Marines. They were certainly one of the strongest factions when 9th first came out, and can still put out a whole load of decent lists, but they've definitely been Codex creeped a bit, looking a lot more mid-tier now, unless you're just taking the very strongest builds from their very strongest book supplements. I think when this one comes out, it'll be really interesting to see. We've not seen a 9th edition Codex redone yet. It does make me wonder where they'd go from what they've released already. Space Marines do already feel like a book that have got a really extensive set of special rules going on. It'll be interesting to see how they build on that and make it more exciting. I feel like it perhaps could be more of an excuse to re-release the 8th edition supplements, things like Ultramarines, White Scars, Iron Hands, etc. They all came out fairly late in 8th edition, but they haven't actually received a 9th edition update yet. So compared with other books like, say, Space Wolves or Death Watch for example, they're missing certain sections in their codex, things like unique secondary objectives, page 4 and points upgrades, and a fresh look at their datasheets for any of their special characters or unique units, such as Mr. Gilliman himself. Of course, Games Workshop wouldn't be able to release a Space Marine Codex without at least some new models. From multiple sources and people messaging me, I have heard about a Redemptor variant with a melter weapon, and some sort of jump pack equipped Primaris with barrage weapons, and probably some other supporting kits or characters as well. In any case, I am interested to see what exactly they choose to change out of the Codex. I guess perhaps one of the most interesting things that they could alter is trying to make some of the non-core vehicles a bit more viable. Perhaps out of anything they feel like they're some of the least interesting datasheets in Codex Space Marines right now. Moving into slightly more speculative ground now. I did touch on World Eaters earlier. It seems kind of inevitable that Games Workshop will at some stage release World Eaters and Emperor's Children. For God-specific legions, they've already released the Thousand Sons and Death Guard. Currently, it seems like a lot more rumours appear to be pointing towards World Eaters as the next choice as opposed to the Servants of Slaanesh, and I feel that Games Workshop is adding extra credence to that by saying that this year is the year of Chaos. Though admittedly, it does sound like Chaos Space Marines might be getting the year's biggest release anyway, if they do get all those kits that have already been rumoured. In any case, if World Eaters do come to pass, it seems pretty likely that they'd follow the similar pattern to Thousand Sons and Death Guard, get their Primarch reimagined as an enormous demonic monstrosity, a much awaited revamp of Khorne Berserkers, maybe similar to Khan here, probably World Eaters, Red Butchers, Terminators, similar to the Death Guard or Thousand Sons equivalents, and most likely a fair few supporting things like HQ choices or support characters, a cultist equivalent similar to Zangors or Poxwalkers, and I think it might be fun to see a Khorne associated demon engine, maybe something the equivalent of the Forge World Blood Slaughterer. I think that World Eaters will be a fun release. I feel like after Games Workshop has released the 8th edition codexes and the new Space Marine one, there's always the possibility of new codexes, maybe like the slightly surprising releases of Custodies or Sisters of Battle in 8th. I think World Eaters will be fun. It does sound like they're certainly being worked on between the rumours from that big rumour compilation and a few other bits that have been surfaced since. With Games Workshop though, I think they do keep timescales somewhat fluid. They might release soon, or might get pushed back if there's other things to bring out. Otherwise, looking into later this year or beyond, it does appear that squats are being mentioned quite a bit. Again, like the World Eaters, they featured in that big rumour leak, and that has been right about everything so far. Could potentially be a kill team release, I guess, or maybe a new codex with a small range. I'm sure most of you are aware who they are already. Basically dwarves in space, whose small range basically got retconned by Games Workshop ages back, an army they chose not to support, presumably because people weren't as interested in them. I think they'll definitely be appealing to the nostalgia factor, a bit like G-Stealer Cult. It'll be interesting to see if they do materialise. For the Horus Heresy, there is that plastic range refresh that we've seen teased. Games Workshop still haven't acknowledged this yet, but it looks like there's really quite a big range refresh going on. What appears to be a new Versus box with a whole bunch of Heresy-era armour marines, Terminators, and a new Spartan tank, all apparently reimagined in plastic. Of course, that is a different game system to 40k, but it seems very likely that they might update certain rules to allow you to fill the models in the 40k game. Certainly seems plausible if they are turning it into a big effort new release. Again, one to watch. No idea of the timescale of this one though. We know that there's going to be more kill teams coming, more Versus boxes for 40k. One that was repeatedly mentioned in the Aeldari rumours was that at some stage there's going to be a Harlequins kill team, containing some sort of new character datasheet that isn't going to appear in the new codex. I think those kill team releases are always looking quite interesting. Really cool to have a single datasheet in 40k had quite so much attention paid to it. Maybe we'll see something like Harlequins versus Kazakin in the future. There's really quite a lot of things that they could explore. Another inevitable thing is that Games Workshop's Warzone expansions are probably going to keep coming. We've been to Charadon, Octarius and Nakmund. No idea where they'll be taking us next in these galaxy exploring things. But in December they did basically say that there's going to be a seasons model of 40k. Every 6 months a bit more content coming out, potentially new points adjustments, and the narrative is going to be set in a different part of the galaxy with a bit of supplemental rules for the armies fighting there. I feel like those Warzone books are really quite interesting ideas, but kind of delivered in a bad way. Fun exploration of certain niche factions in 40k, but all bundled into a book alongside a whole load of things that you probably aren't interested in and charged at the same amount as a codex. I think at some stage they're almost guaranteed to be releasing a Farsight Enclave supplement for the Tau. I do wonder if that might be featuring in an upcoming Warzone sometime, as they basically didn't release any detailed Farsight stuff in the Tau Codex, making me think that they're saving it for a future release. I'm sure a lot of people will be quite interested in seeing new updated rules for the 8, and all the various fun battlesuit stuff that the previous supplement gave them. Finally, purely based on common sense and what Games Workshop has done in previous editions, after all the codexes come out and the new Codex Space Marine drops, I think it's kind of inevitable that there's going to be a future campaign release. Basically something the equivalent of Psychic Awakening for 9th edition. Basically Games Workshop cycling through the codexes again and releasing a whole bunch of new content for them, so that just about every army does get something new and interesting. If they do go for something like that, it might mean a bunch of new character releases and things. They did tend to accompany most of the books with at least one small release, though it largely didn't tend to be things that were too major. Then of course on to 10th edition, and we'll probably try and start this thing all over again. So anyway, hope you've enjoyed a bit of talking around some of the upcoming 40k releases. As always, let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Which of this seems likely, which of it seems unlikely, and what are your hopes and fears for the upcoming codexes? If you've enjoyed the video, feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics. I feel like I've got a fair few leaks and rumours videos to catch up with soon. Expect a few more details for Eldar, Chaos and Tyranids over the next few days. I do try and keep up with Games Workshop's news and releases on the channel whenever they come out. Finally, if you have been enjoying all the videos on the channel, I would just like to mention that Auspex Tactics does have a Patreon page, and you can find that down in the video description below. Channel patrons get a fair few advantages, including seeing certain videos early each week, regular votes to see what sort of things happen next on the channel, and automatic entry into the regular prize giveaways with a chance to win some big model kits every month. If any of that sounds good to you, or you just like to help support, then the link is down in the video description. In any case, a massive thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.